Hey, oozes and bunnies. This is a preview of the most recent Party Planning, an extra podcast that the Join the Party crew makes for our Patreon. If you want to listen to the whole thing, go to patreon.com/jointhepartypod. Check out this preview.
Oh, hello, Amanda.
Hey, Julia. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning. Well, it is afternoon. I was like, is morning? It feels like it's morning. Sometimes, you just like, you don't get a lot of sleep and you wake up and you're like, what time is it? I certainly don't know. And I won't.
It's my first time talking to you today. And so it's the morning of the Julia Amanda friendship counter for the day.
I love that. Sometimes your day doesn't start until you talk to your bestie.
Exactly.
And that's something. Amanda, how are you doing? How have you been enjoying the beginning of summer? Have you been doing any fun activities lately?
Yes, I am trying to go outside and enjoy the summer weather more. And so I've been doing a lot of volunteering at our community garden and also gardening on my little fire escape outside my home office window. And so I have some little tomatoes ripening up. I have some bigger tomatoes that I'm trying to grow to transplant at your house and a couple little flowers just, to make me smile. So that's been my main summertime activity.
That's nice. Oh, Amanda, this is I wasn't saving this for the podcast, but yes. I did just remember. So I was doing some weeding in the beds that I have in the backyard, and I was about to pluck this one weed out of the garden, and I was like, is that a tomato? I think the seeds, from the tomatoes that I kind of left in the beds last year, managed to grow back, and so now I have a little tomato guy. He's that big.
Amazing.
And we'll see how he manages. But
I was call that a
well,
volunteer. It volunteered itself.
It did volunteer itself, and I was like, okay, I will nurture you now. It's good to know. But I was so excited. Amanda, I know you're getting outside a lot. The weather's getting nicer. I'm sure that getting to spend a lot of time outside is always good. But when you are at home and you are settling down on the couch maybe for the evening and you're like, I'm going to have a nice relaxing time what have you been watching lately?
Oh, Julia, it's going to be RuPaul's Drag Race. It's going to be Top Chef. I don't have a huge appetite for fiction TV these days. I had some of the Jinx season 2, but mostly it's competition reality shows. And as we all know, Amanda's summer don't start till Big Brother starts, which is going to be in just about a month. So I'm excited about that.
Amazing. I kind of knew that was going to be your answer, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
And so I prepared a party planning for us here today that is kind of revolving around those things that I know that you love.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Now, famously, in campaign 1, Eric put together a in-game bachelorette.
Yes.
And it was incredible. What a cool concept. I think that more DMs should do that, where they take their favorite reality show, especially reality competition shows, and they make it a plot point in the arc of the campaign that they're running.
I mean, it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. And there are even RPGs where you can be as if you're in a competitive reality show and do confessionals and all kinds of great things.
Now, Amanda, what I wanted to do today then, inspired by your love of reality competition shows and the fact that Eric has kind of done this before, proving that you can in fact do it, I wanted to take some of the most popular competition reality shows out there right now and some that I know are your favorite and kind of work through how you could make them fantasy and also incorporate them into your campaigns.
Julia, this is a wonderful idea. We just had the fall TV upfronts, and so this is the RPG TV upfronts, which is a term that means nothing if you don't work in advertising like I do accidentally. But it's incredible. I can't wait to get started.
Yes. So I have a couple of that I jotted down. I asked you a couple of what your favorite ones were. And so I am very excited for us to settle in. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for us to kind of go through.
Incredible.
That we can transform into fantasy reality.
Yeah, baby. Can't wait.
All right, cool. Let's start with one that I know is one of your favorites, Amanda, and that is Survivor. Mm-hmm. I think this one will translate pretty easily into fantasy, but let's talk about what you think we can do to make this more fantasy.
Okay, so you're really good at assigning mechanics to the stuff that I love. So let me start by like highlighting a couple of things that I think might be interesting for us to go down, and then we can like collaborate on the mechanics.
Also, can I ask you that when we list a show, you just give like a brief kind of synopsis of what the show is about, how it's played, etc.?
Absolutely. So Survivor is one of the oldest competition reality shows. They have castaways, random people who are put onto an island in 2 and sometimes 3 tribes with very, very limited supplies, occasionally a machete and a pot and a flint, sometimes even not even that. And so the concept is that they have to like build their own society with their own rules. And you just vote out a different person each week. If you win a competition, of like a physical like relay race type thing, sometimes a puzzle, sometimes a swimming, then your tribe is exempt from tribal council and you don't have to vote anyone out. So basically the more you lose, the more you have to vote off one of your own. But then at the end, Julia, the great twist of Survivor that is now so what am I trying to say? So ubiquitous in reality TV. I was like, it's not unambiguous. It is ubiquitous. Is that the people you vote out are the ones who vote for the winner. So the final like 8 to 10 people who you vote out are the ones who vote for who to award $1 million to. So that's the premise.
Yes. So let's talk about how we can make that more. There's also things like immunity idols, which allow you to play them in case you're like, I think I'm going to get voted out, so I want to make sure that no one actually votes me out, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's cool mechanics to this that we can also kind of assign stuff to. So I'm very excited.
Totally. I think the thing that is like, again, so fundamental about Survivor that now we sort of like expected is that there's no like judge voting for who wins. It is the people among you who vote for who to award the money to. So I'm wondering if there's any like way that obviously in a fantasy role playing game situation you're trying to like beat a boss, but I wonder if there's like a jury of your peers. This is like some kind of like skills competition or survival competition or dungeon created by dungeon explorers maybe. That's like a real buy-in for the people.
I can definitely picture it being like one of those things where your players and also some random NPCs that maybe they do know, maybe they don't know, just like wake up transported to a desert island of some kind. And
that's really good.
And like the idea maybe there's like investigation checks and challenges, or like investigation checks in between challenges in order to find the immunity idols, and like you get like an additional spell slot or like spell slot. I also think exhaustion would be a really fun thing to use for this, because you are like kind of at risk of being dehydrated or malnourished or something like that. Like that could be a really interesting check. And like we often talk about how survival is not a very utilized skill in D&D, especially the way that we play it here on Join the Party. Troy Riptide not having his skills in survival but never getting to use them, I think is hilarious.
Never, that one.
No, never once. But I really like to be like, oh, well, you guys keep complaining you never get to use your survival checks. Here they fucking are. Let's go.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Julia. Because too, like there's also, in addition to having competitions to see who has to vote someone out, there is also competition for things like basic necessities, for like a fishing kit, for food. And so certainly you could have like mini games to get more supplies or to relieve exhaustion. But the like terrible and challenging thing is that the more you lose, the harder it gets to win, because the other team, if they're winning, are being better supplied, better fed, better nourished, and they're going to get stronger. So that is one element that I think is really fascinating. You also reminded me of one of my favorite things to observe in Survivor, which is when there is some kind of like advantage that requires collaboration across tribal lines. So what if there is like maybe this is where where, you know, you can like merge the circles of like two different parties, maybe two like, again, different groups that you play TTRPGs with, or someone has it in common, or there's like a guest DM situation where you need to collaborate with other members of the tribe, or each of you gets messages. And so there will sometimes be sort of logic puzzles in Survivor where it's like, well, you know, all three of you are being asked if the other person is going to defect. And if they do, you know, like then you get rewarded if you correctly guess kind of what other people's motives are going to be. But if everybody turns on each other, then nobody survives. But if nobody turns on each other, then like nobody gets anything. And so sort of like cold reading people you know a little bit could be really interesting.
I think that's a lot of like charisma checks and charisma like challenges. Like I think that's really interesting. I think you're also going to need a lot of like insight and deception in order to kind of get through this. And the idea of like you said, like at the end, the people you voted off and potentially betrayed are the ones who decide whether or not you're the winner. The fact that you have to like be very charismatic and prove to them like I did what I had to do and I deserve this money or this prize or whatever it is a really interesting way to go about mechanically how to play the game.
Oh, that's really good. Like imagine, you are, you know, you fulfill a mission for a ruler, and then, you know, the ruler like calls your party back and it is like, okay, well, one of you is going to get 100 gold. So like, who's going to be? And then like on Survivor, you have the final tribal council where, you know, the final 2 or 3 people sit there and say, well, you know, you should actually respect me because I went around the bounds of your challenge. You know, I played a really like subtle game, and that actually means I was in charge of what I was doing because you didn't notice me, versus somebody else who is a more major threat being like, I want everything. And, you know, it's because I wanted to show how strong I am. So being able to like argue your case to, you know, an NPC, I think would be really fascinating.
Yes. And then Boston Rob proposes.
To Amber. Yep.
And then Amber, you know, and then they split the money because they're the final 2, and it actually worked out great for everyone. So
and she pops out 4 kids who look exactly like her.
Wow, that's wild. I didn't know that part.
4 daughters, Julia. They all look
Amber.
exactly like Amber. Yep.
Proud of you, Amber. Good for you.
Yep.
Incredible. I think that's a great start for Survivor. I think like coming up with some different challenges and stuff, like watch a couple, like maybe a highlight reel of like the seasons and be like, oh yeah, you know, you're going to make Constitution saving throws because you have to, you know, stand on a pole in the middle of the water for however long. And then you have to do wisdom checks as they reveal new prizes. Like if you give up, like, oh, you get McDonald's or something like that.
Yes. And like, imagine, again, I'm so tickled by GMs that like do this physically because I've only ever done largely remote D&D. But like imagine if you literally said to somebody, you can have this happy meal or you can win this challenge. Like people take it, you know, or you can like print out, you know, a mock-up of a Survivor puzzle. There's like a whole like Etsy market for like Survivor puzzle reenactments. You can like print out a maze, right? Or like use blocks to be like, oh, balance these blocks on top of each other and whoever does it best wins. So there's a ton of opportunity, I think, for a sort of interactive component.
Yes, I agree. 100%. I think that's a lot of fun. I think people should incorporate Survivor into their games. 100%. Let's move on to our next one because I want to get through all 7, I think, and I think we're going to have a great time with this. But let's go with Drag Race, Amanda. RuPaul's Drag Race.
RuPaul's Drag Race.
That was great. My favorite part was the accent work. If you like that, you got to hear the rest of party planning by joining the Patreon at patreon.com/jointhepartypod.